Today we're going to answer the question, how do I get the most out of my appointment with my doctor? Aloha, this is Dr. Matthew Dykema of Joyful Living Medicine here in Hilo, Hawaii, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time answering this question. How do I make the most of my time with my physician? And I'm not sure this is a question I get very often, but I think it's one that should be well considered. Because all of our time is valuable. It's one of the resources that is non-renewable. So just wanted to spend a little bit of time on that today. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the comment section, and I'll try and address them in future videos. But let's go ahead and get started. So number one is first getting an appointment. With many doctors being pressed more and more for time, having to do more paperwork for insurance companies and administrative purposes, and just sheer shortage of physicians, sometimes getting an appointment can be challenging. So I just encourage everyone, if you have a need or a concern or an issue, go ahead and call and get scheduled as soon as you think of that. That way, if it gets worse or things progress, you're not waiting another week or two to be addressed. I know in our office we have 3 different types of visits. We have new patient visits where we establish care and we just get to know each other and set our health goals. We have chronic care visits, which are usually follow-up appointments for managing a person's health. And then we also have acute care visits, which are more like urgent care or same-day walk-in appointments that are for an issue that has come up and needs to be addressed quickly. And so those are the 3 types of appointments that we have. Depending on the type of appointment, obviously will determine what you can expect to get out of that appointment, as well as what you should do to get the most out of it. But first recommendation, like I said, is to go ahead and call and schedule. That way you can get on file. If you need to cancel or if things get better, it's much easier to go ahead and call and do that sometimes than it is to get an appointment. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is just making sure to show up for your appointment. When you show up on time, it allows me as a physician to have more time with you and helps me from getting backed up. And when you come prepared to your office visit, it helps us to be able to address issues more efficiently and effectively. And I would just say this, no matter the type of appointment, whether it's a new appointment, whether it's an acute care visit, or whether it's a follow-up for chronic conditions, I would just say go ahead and write down what are your questions, what are your concerns, what are the things that you would like to go ahead and address at that visit. And if you come with that already in hand and you give it to my staff up front when they're logging you in and getting your vitals, it just helps us to make sure that we are able to answer those questions so that you don't forget about them, and then when you get home you're like, oh, I meant to ask this. So either put it in your phone as a note, or in the calendar as a note, or just keep it on a notepad. And that's something that I highly encourage patients to do, is go ahead and write down your issues or concerns. The other thing that's really helpful as a provider is to bring in your medications that you're taking, any supplements that you're taking, or to go ahead and take pictures of those, and take pictures not just of the name, but also sometimes on the back, if it's a supplement, the actual ingredient list that lists what is in there. Because oftentimes I'll get questions about a vitamin or supplement or medication, and we're not really sure what it is. And if we don't have that information at the time of appointment, it really makes it challenging to be able to address that, and you're not going to get as much as you could otherwise from your appointment. So just go ahead and be sure to bring in your medications or take pictures of them. And I really do prefer either pictures or to bring them in rather than a list, because oftentimes the lists don't get updated, or sometimes you forget to put the milligrams or how often you're taking it, that type of stuff. So if you can bring that information in, that'll be really helpful. The other thing is just maintaining and being aware of your health events and keeping a health journal. I'm going to have a separate video on what should be in a health journal, but important to write down and bring in with you to your appointment any events that have happened since the last time that you were seen. And so that may be a surgery, it may be a procedure, it may have been an urgent care or ER visit over the weekend, hospitalizations for sure. Write down the actual dates for when these things happen, and make sure also if you had any other events, you had an episode where you passed out, or you had an episode where you had an allergic reaction or something, write down the date and bring it in. That way we can help to maintain accurate records, and it also can help us to be able to diagnose and discern what's going on. So if you can keep your own health record of different events and things that are happening, that makes it a whole lot easier for me to be able to partner with you in your health and determine how we can help address whatever issues may or may not be going on. So write things down, your questions, your concerns, but also write down anything that has happened, or any what I would label as a health event that has happened, or a life event for that matter. And that way we can make sure to account for those things and to address them, and we don't forget about it, and make sure you get those things up front. On that note too, if you do have any paperwork or any forms, please look at those ahead of time. Actually read through it. A lot of forms I get have areas that the patient needs to fill out, or sometimes the forms are actually not even for me as a physician, but for somebody else. So if you can actually read over those things and then fill in any part that you're able to, that makes the visit go much smoother and quicker also. Additionally, if you've been to any specialists or any laboratory areas, or had any x-rays, imaging, anything like that done, please make sure that the records get forwarded to your primary care doctor, because a lot of times we may or may not get them. And so every time that you go to the lab, or every time that you go to imaging, or every time that you go to your specialist, if you'd like the primary care doctor to also receive those things, make sure you note it each and every time, because a lot of systems, even in the world of technology that we have today, are just not perfect. And additionally, keep notes. Write down notes of what the specialist told you, or write down notes of anything that happened at those events, or those type of things. And if we have a complete and accurate history of what has happened and what's going on, it really helps us to give you the most of what we can in that office visit, so that we don't have to repeat things. It also gives me a better picture of what's going on, so that I can help partner with you for your complete and best health. So that's really important, is to write things down. The other thing that I would just say is, when you do come, please make sure that you bring in your updated insurance information, as well as card if you have one. And we see patients with and without insurance, so that's not a factor. But if you're wanting the insurance company to be able to pay for things, whether it's the office visit, or whether it's any procedures or medications or anything that's ordered, it's very important that we have updated and accurate information, so that we can submit that, because a lot of time gets wasted because of incorrect information, or information that was not updated. And on that note, sometimes we're in the habit of keeping old ID cards or old things around, and really when it comes to insurance cards, it's best not to keep those around in your wallet or at all if you have an updated version of it, because there's been times where we had an old version, and again, it just slows the process down for things, and sometimes can be a big barrier to care. So that's something that I would just recommend. The other thing that is super important to me as a clinician, as a provider, is to help partner with my patients in setting health goals. And I think this is something that, again, we don't maybe talk about quite enough, but if we can set health goals for our future, it really will help us to plan and manage our expectations of what we want, and also allow us to have the future that we'd want. Otherwise, if we don't set any health goals, a lot of times we'll end up in places that we maybe wouldn't want to be. But by setting goals and writing them down, and then coming up with a concrete plan on how to accomplish those things, it allows us to achieve much more. And not always will we reach our goals, but we're much more likely to head in the direction that we want to go if we have those sets. So I think that's something important too prior to even coming in for a visit, especially for chronic care follow-ups or even for acute visits, is what's our goal in one, coming to see the physician or the healthcare provider, and two, what is the goal long-term for my health, and where do I want to be? And if we can write those things down and formulate realistic goals and expectations, that's something that is so powerful. So yeah, that would be another thing I would say to get the most out of your office visit, is to know what you want out of it, and make that clear to yourself by writing it down, but also to your healthcare team, so that we can partner with you. Because really, I do see my job and my goal as a physician is to partner with my patients to help them achieve their best health and their best life. And sometimes things in life come up and we don't expect it, and that happens, and I can help manage and track through that. But a lot of times things come up that were predictable, and maybe it was predictable, but the patient didn't realize that, or it wasn't something that was on the radar. So the more that we can have things out in the open, that will be really important. And on that note, the other important thing that I think to get the most out of your office visit is to be honest. To be honest with yourself, and also to be honest with your healthcare team and with your physician, because if we don't give ourselves a clear representation of where we're at, and we certainly, if we're not fully honest with our physician, and it can be something as simple as, well, I'm only taking my medicine twice a week as opposed to every day, or I don't really want to take medicine, so you can prescribe it, but I'm not going to take it, or yeah, I've been eating this or that, or I haven't been able to do as much activity, exercise as I want to. If we're not honest with ourselves first about it, then we're not really going to be able to initiate any change if it's needed. And certainly as a physician, if I'm not able to have an open and clear communication with my patients, and I think they're doing something and I think they're taking something, but in reality they're really not, then I'm not going to have a clear way to help them move forward, because maybe I would think, well, we got to increase medication, or we need to make some adjustments, and but that's assuming that certain things are being done. So if we can be honest with ourselves and with each other, that is really critical and important in being able to assess where we're at and also move forward in what we need. And that is important for so many areas of life, but especially when it comes to our health and well-being. The other thing that I would say is it's really critical to be accountable and to take responsibility. And so one thing when you come to your office visit is the accountability and the follow-up. So it's sometimes I might suggest some changes, or I might suggest certain things to help. But one, writing it down so you will remember, and two, writing it down and reviewing it so that you will do it. And then tell somebody about it. I think the power of telling a friend, a family member, sometimes it can be even a stranger, but it holds ourselves more accountable to actually doing something and following through. And then taking responsibility for ourselves. Ultimately, I've come to the realization that I honestly am unable to change anybody. I can help to influence change and to help it to people to heal if they're willing. But our body is actually what has to heal. Our mind, our spirit, our emotions, everything is connected into it. And if we don't take responsibility for our own actions, for the things that we can, then it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to really live our best lives and to live our best health. So I think that's super, super important. And then the other thing I would just suggest is take notes. So when you come to your office visit, bring your notes with you of things that have happened and things that you're concerned about and of what you're doing. But also during the office visit, take notes. And I'm okay if you bring out your phone and record it, or an audio recording. But more than that, I think just take the notes and make sure that the key points, the key things that were gone over are understood. And by doing so, that really allows you to have something to go back, because a lot of what is spoken is forgotten. And I don't know, there's different statistics, so depending on what you look at, but I may have a 15-minute office visit with somebody, and they may only remember 5 to 10% of what I said. And so by taking notes, that helps you to be able to get more out of your visit as well. And you can go back and look at it, and you can make sure that you're following through with those things that we have agreed upon to help you. And I think that's super critical and important. So I take notes. Obviously, I have to. That's one of the things maybe I wish I didn't have to do as much, because I have to take a lot of notes for insurance companies, maybe beyond what is helpful and needed. But I encourage my patients to take your notes and communicate. I think the other key that I found is to have good communication and to have closed loop communication. Meaning if something was supposed to happen and it didn't, then as a patient, it's my responsibility to follow up and say, hey, I never heard anything back about this referral, or I never got my results back for the x-ray that I did. And obviously you want to give adequate time, but if time passes and you haven't had follow-up from the doctor's office, it's my responsibility as a patient to follow up, to say, wow, I didn't hear anything. Did you get it or not? And I can't tell you how many times I've had somebody where something happened with the fax machine, or something didn't go through correctly now that we're using electronics, and something would have gotten missed had a patient not followed up with it. So just that closed loop communication and feedback. So if there's something that you don't like, or something that you're concerned about, or something that didn't work for you, it's important to provide that feedback, and in a timely manner, because you don't want to wait 6 months to address something that needs to be addressed now, because we'll just be heading more and more away from where we want to be. So I hope that this has been helpful, but from a physician standpoint, I think these are the critical things that I would ask my patients to do in order to get the most out of your doctor's visit when you come. That way we can address things effectively and efficiently, and to actually initiate and maintain any changes that may be needed. So I hope you appreciated that. If you can, please also, you can look at the other videos. I'm going to be doing one shortly about, again, what it is to keep your own health journal or health diary, as well as other topics that will be helpful for you. So look for those in the near future. If you would like this video, that would help me out. Also subscribe. That way when I do come out with the new content, you'll be able to see it. So I hope this is helpful. Aloha, and have a wonderful rest of your day. And I pray and wish you blessings for your health and for your journey in this life.